Hello YouTube, welcome back for another video. Tonight I thought we would tackle the fundamentals of one of the really big cornerstones of cello technique, and that is of course shifting. And when I say fundamentals, tonight I'm going to take you through the absolute basics of shifting in the way I would normally explain it to a student who has never done any shifting before. Now, if you are completely new to shifting, this video will hopefully teach you the fundamentals in such a way that going forward, shifting will never be something you have to worry about. And if you're not entirely new to it, but your shifting perhaps isn't as reliable as you would like it to be, hopefully this video will provide some pointers. So let's give it a go. Fundamentally, there are two components to any hopefully successful shift. The first being the execution of the actual movement. The second being what I would call the navigational element, i.e. how to find the note you want to hit. So we are going to look at each of those in turn, starting with the movement itself. The first question, of course, is what is a shift? And in essence, a shift is nothing other than a change in angle between the upper and the lower arm that allows us to take our hand from one position to another. And that is really important because when we look at the actual movement, you can see here that a shift is very much an arm movement. It's not a hand movement, it's not a finger movement, it is an arm movement. So that is the first thing we want to try and get our head around. As you can see here, when I'm moving about, my lower arm, my hand stay completely calm and stable. And all that is happening is my elbow opening and closing like that. So that is the first thing you can try for yourself. Really looking at your arm, you can see here that I've got a completely straight line in the arm. There is no dip in the wrist, there is no bump in the wrist. It's a completely straight line, and as always, make sure your hand has got a really good C shape here. And once you've established that, you can try what happens. If you can almost imagine that your wrist and your hand are almost sort of frozen or cast in iron here, so that you're not tempted to do anything like that. Yeah, we just open the elbow, we close the elbow. The most common mistake we tend to make here is that we tend to initiate the shift from either our wrist or our fingers, and our arm gets left behind. And of course, the moment that happens, we no longer have the support of the arm, the fingers aren't supported anymore, and usually the note we end up on will be out of tune. So that's why right from the word go, the single most important thing to learn is the shift gets initiated from here, from your elbow. Yeah, so you can really practice literally saying to your elbow, open and close, open and close. And it should really work pretty much like any sort of well-oiled hydraulic mechanism that opens and closes very smoothly. Yeah, so when you do that, you might even be able to hear this little whoosh sound here on my string. So try to do that for yourself. Listen out for that sound and really watch out for this movement and it being executed entirely from the elbow. Now that we've practiced the basic movement on dry land, so to speak, let's try some actual shifts. Usually, the first position you will learn after first position will be fourth position. So that's what we're going to start with. We're going to practice shifting from first position to fourth position on the same finger with the bow stopped in between. There you go. So let's take that apart a little bit more. What actually happens here, step by step. We play our E. Now, next, we need to get from what I would call playing mode into shifting mode. In order to play a note, we of course have to press the string down with our finger to the point where our finger touches the fingerboard and the string is fully connected to the fingerboard. Now, in order to shift, however, we need to release that pressure, because otherwise our shifting will become very, very, very heavy, and on each shift you will hear what I call a little meow, a little sort of sliding sound here, which we don't want. So what needs to happen? We play our note, we release the pressure, and when I say release the pressure, we never take our finger off the string. We stay on the string, but we disconnect the string from the fingerboard. So essentially, it's a pretty similar idea to when you use a clutch in the car to change gear. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. You have to disconnect the two plates. So same idea. Yeah, so ease off the pressure, and now our arm comes in. Give the command to your arm to shift. Again, can you hear the little whoosh sound, which you only get when you move very, very lightly across the string? And once we arrive, we reconnect. So let's do that one more time. Note, release the pressure, stay on the string the whole time, move from your elbow, reconnect, and play. So that procedure is something you simply have to practice, as we say in England, until the cows come home. Yeah, to get that procedure into your system. Again, coming back to the driving, when you first learned to drive, you really had to talk yourself through every single step. Clutch down, gear stick, change gear, clutch back up. Exactly same sort of procedure we need to learn here, and we need to practice it over and over and over and over. Yeah, so initially try to practice that on all four fingers. And so on and so forth. Throughout all of this, the most important thing we need to pay attention to is to what I call the quality of movement. So our arm movement throughout this exercise should be completely unforced. Yeah? Ultimately, the quality of the note that you will get after you have shifted will only ever be as good as the quality of the actual movement that precedes it. Yeah, so there will, especially at the beginning, be a tendency to sort of panic slightly and try and force that. Speed is really the last priority at this point. Yeah, there are no prizes for speed here. Anyone can do a fast bad shift, not a problem. But at this point, you actually want to almost train yourself to how slowly can I shift. And I would go as far as saying you want to get to the point where you really relish and enjoy this movement. Yeah? So almost, I would say, treat it as a kind of mindfulness exercise. Yeah, to just connect with that left arm and feel how your elbow opens very, very slowly, very, very gradually, and the whole time how your fingertip very, very, very lightly brushes across the surface of the string. Let's talk about what I initially said was the second sort of element of a shift, and that of course is the navigational side of it. How can I ensure that I hit the note that I intend to hit, right? So that of course being, you know, the big thing that everyone worries about when it comes to shifting. And that navigation process, I very much always compare this a little bit with when we're using any kind of GPS, yeah, whether that's sat-nav in the car or Google Maps on our phone. In order for that navigation system to work, we first of all need to know where we want to go. And for us, that means we need to have a crystal clear idea in our ear as to what the next note sounds like. If you don't know what the note sounds like, that if you can't pitch the note that you want to reach, you can have the most fabulous shifting technique in the world, you will not hit that note. Yeah? So the process of finding the note, what's important right from the start is to say that the one sense of ours which cannot help in any way, shape or form is our eyesight. So I am a complete non-believer in any kind of tapes or stickers or anything on the fingerboard because that is simply not how we find a note. It sets up a completely false dichotomy. So I don't even go there with my students. So what do we need to do? Initially, when we start the process of shifting, there is almost no way around introducing, you may like it or not, an element of singing into that. Yeah. So if you naturally have a really, really good sense of pitch and you're really up to speed on your intervals, you might find you need less of that. If you're not sure about intervals and what they sound like, then that is something you have to really practice in tandem with the arm movement itself, because the movement can only take you so far. Hitting the note only works through having a reliable sense of pitch in your ear. Yeah, so in the exercise that we have just done, going from first to fourth position, the interval is always the same. It's always a fourth. Yeah, and one very good way to memorize intervals, I find, is to find a piece of music. Can be, actual piece of music, can be a nursery rhyme, can be a Christmas carol, anything you can remember that starts with that interval. Yeah. One example I always use here is for the fourth is very well known Christmas carol called Away in the Manger, which starts on a fourth. So if you're not sure what the fourth sounds like, sing the beginning of Away in the Manger, and hopefully that should set you on your way. Yeah, and the same really goes for any other interval. So that is really, really, really important. There are lots of resources out there now, even online. I mean, if you have a piano at home, of course, it helps to just play yourself intervals and sing them, bows going up and going down. And as I said, failing that, there are lots of resources now online that train what we call oral, that train your ear, and where you can practice that. Everything we've just talked about, of course, are only the absolute basics of shifting. However, these are so crucially important to building a secure technique that it's really worth spending some time on those alone. Of course, there is much, much more to the topic of shifting. So far, we've only covered shifting on the same finger. What happens when we're shifting from a lower finger to a higher finger, from a higher finger to a lower finger on the same bow. All of these are separate topics in themselves, which I will cover in another video. But for now, I hope this has been helpful and has gone some way to putting you on a path to a lifelong love of shifting. As usual, if you have any questions, pop them into the comments below and I'll respond as soon as I can. And if you haven't done it yet, please, if you enjoy these videos, smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and you can see I have been making lots of content as of late, and there will be more and more coming as the weeks go on, and I look forward to seeing you for more very soon. Cheerio.